Alright folks, boys and girls, young and old, we are in for some Type 2 fun today. If you don't know what Type 2 fun is, get on the Google and look it up. It is hot, it is dirty, it is greasy. This is not one of Pornhub's features. This is going to be replacing these brake lines in the Cayman. I'm doing it in the garage today, so lighting is not great. It's about 1,000,000 degrees outside, and I don't have air conditioning in the garage. But it is keeping me out of the sun, and I burn like a freshman home ec student. So there you go. So the plan today is my second attempt at this as well. New cars, you always find the tools that you don't have. So this fitting is different size than that fitting. That is a 11. This is a 10. I did not have a 10mm flare wrench. Or I'm sorry, I did not have an 11mm flare wrench, so I had to go and get one. And then life. And then now I've got some time to do it. So most people are at the beach today. I am sweating my ass off replacing brake lines. But I do it for you guys, so you can see what needs to be done. Alright, so I apologize, the lighting is going to be a little bit shitty because we are in the garage, but I will try to do my best to capture what I'm working on. So let's get started. Where are the brake lines? Oh, these are the brake lines I got. I don't want to jinx it by saying it'll be straightforward, but I guess I just did. So let's find a good angle here so that you guys can see what's going on. Alright, so we're going to work on I'm not sure which brake line to work on first. The one closest to the car, the one that's furthest away. They've got these like weird little retainer things. That's not brake fluid dripping. I sprayed it with PB Blaster, which reminds me, I better bring some rags over here. Awesome, I love it when my camera just turns off for no particular reason. So I'm not sure where I left off or how much of that you heard, but so where we're at right now is trying to replace these rubber brake lines with stainless steel brake lines. I just went through the importance of using a flare wrench, which that's a flare wrench. It gives you a little bit of extra grip on the connections, so you don't strip them out, because if you strip them out, you're going to have a very bad day. And we saw that I think this car had ATE Super Blue fluid in it, because it's bleeding blue, and I think that's kind of criminal that I have to replace it because you can't buy it anymore because of laws and stupid laws that say that brake fluid has to be gold colored. It cannot have any dyes in it, even though been used for years without issue. But whatever, stupidity, what can I say? Alright, so there's get some brake fluid down here. None of this is painted, so it's fine for right now, but I'm going to wash it off a little bit later. So anyway, I got this off. It broke free pretty easily. Looks like this is this little spring here to put tension on the brake line up there and hold it in place. So, and there's like a little washer in there too. So that actually came out all right. It wasn't too much drama there on that side. Probably jinxing myself. And then I just got used one of these little rubber caps to stem the bleeding. So I don't have less brake fluid all over is always a good thing. All right, now we're gonna move. Attempt to move without getting brake fluid all over everything that I own. Let's show you guys the other side of the line. Probably gonna give me a little bit less room to work, but gotta get those views. Okay, so that's what I'm going for. Right there is this little guy, and that's the entire brake line assembly that we're trying to replace right now, and that's where I was just working back there. So let me see if I can move some light around. Alright, anyway. So this side is a 10mm flare, not a 11 like the other side. So this way we are going to be going again clockwise, which is this direction. I hope. Yes. Trying to work on cars while videoing is something that I have not mastered yet, so please bear with me. But you can kind of see how this is gripping a little bit more all the way around than your standard wrench. Let me see if I can show this. So that's a standard wrench. It's a flare. You see how it's got a little bit extra on it? It's very important. Alright. Yes, brake fluid makes everything very slippery. Trying to get something down there to catch the brake fluid. So in addition to doing brakes today, I'm going to try to do an oil change. And get an oil analysis done, send that off to Blackstone Labs and see what they come back with. Hopefully it comes back good. The car seemed to have a good service history when I picked it up. And then I'm also doing plugs, because this car's scheduled maintenance for plugs is every 40,000 miles. And I am just about at 80,000 right now. And some people might be asking why do you have to, like, what is it, eat through plugs or something? No, and the answer is no. Most people pull the plugs out and they're fine. However, what the general consensus is, I'm going to cap this guy as well. I'm not sure why I'm actually capping it, but anyway. So there you go, the line's disconnected. This just pulls out and it's like keyed a little bit to sit in the group. There's like a, you see like these little notches up here, they fit in there to keep it from spinning when you're loosening the nut for the brake line there. Alright, so brake line comes out. There you go, one down. So anyway, it's the location of the spark plugs, because they sit so low in the car that they're exposed to the elements a little bit more, even though they've got the plug coil on them. I mean the coil on them, which kind of acts like a little bit of a weather proofing. Still, I think stuff gets by it, and because it's so low to the ground, you get salt and everything else, and they're really worried about the spark plugs getting stuck in the head and stripping, or actually just getting stuck in the head, which is not something you really want. I was going to try to take this little protector thing off to transfer to the new lines, but it seems to be giving me a little bit of a pain in the butt. And these new lines, as you can see, they actually have a protective coating on them, so I'm not going to worry about them too much. Now, these guys aren't keyed. I'm not sure why there's so much lag in that, but these guys aren't keyed like the other one was. So it looks like I'm going to need a wrench to hold them in there. So I'm gonna go find one of those. I'm gonna take a little bit of a pause right here. All right, I'm gonna remove the cap that I just put on there. Spent a total of 30 seconds on there. That side you probably don't need to do because it doesn't have a giant reserve of fluid behind it. It seems to be sticking in the caliper. So what I'm going to do is get this guy situated roughly the area where it's going to live. Okay. Like I said, these guys don't have that key in it, which is going to make this a little bit more of a pain in the ass. But this top part here is a 14. I'm going to get my wrench on it. And then, without cross-threading anything, try and see if I can start this guy into... Actually, before I do anything else, I'm just going to see if I can just get this started. Alright, I don't want to kink the hose the way I just did, or the hose is in a nice natural state, so I'm going to move this back a little bit until I like the way it's bending. It seems to be pretty good. Man, I hope this video comes out. The phone camera's acting a little weird. So now I'm going to put 14 mil on there. These are stop tech lines, so if you don't have stop tech lines, it might not be 14 millimeter. And then make sure I'm going in the right direction. Tighten this guy up. All right, one side down. It's funny to notice, I don't know if you can see it or not, but that little band actually says Brembro on it, and I was surprised to find out that these calipers are Brembro calipers. I always thought the Germans would make their own, not rely on some Italian stuff. But what do I know? Learn something new every day. All right, so we're gonna head back over to the other side here. Repeat. Last thing you want to do is bend the line. All right. Wipe that down, make sure it's not leaking. Try and snug it down a little bit more. It's good to me. All right. I'm gonna go do the other side. I'm not gonna force you guys to watch that. I'll come back when I move on to the rear. All right, here we are at the back end of the car with a new package of brake lines, new gloves. It's a whole new world. Same as the front, hopefully. Let's see. Maybe by the end of today I'll actually be able to figure out which way to go to loosen these things. Brake fluid's nice and preheated from the engine being right there. It's always a good thing. Ooh, that is sarcasm, by the way. You don't want your brake fluid hot. All right, one more down. Well, half of one more down. It's right there. It's a little tight because the caliper is right there. So we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna have to get creative with how I get the wrench in there. I'll do it from the back side. Alright, one down. You notice there's no spiral mesh on this side. I guess they're not as worried about it. Out with the middle-aged, in with the new. For now, I'm going to hold it where I want it and continue tightening this. I can use the right size wrench or spanner if you're, you know, in the UK or one of those places. That is tight. I must have just slipped off of it. One side down. It's not rubbing on anything. So next we're gonna go back to the other camera angle. See that guy up there? Pull that cap off, line this sucker up. You should be golden. All right, sorry about that. The camera ran out of batteries. So to all 4 of you who will watch this, my heartfelt apologies. Anyway, it's in. You didn't miss much. I just tightened that up. I wanted to finish that before I started charging this thing to make sure I didn't have brake fluid dripping more than I had to. Just cleaned it up with a little brake clean. Everything looks good. Move on to the other side, and I'll be back with you guys when it's time to bleed the calipers. All right, a little bit of pro tip time. So if I'm trying to exchange all of the brake fluid in the system because I'm not sure if this new stuff I got, Pentosin Super .4, is compatible with the ATE Super Blue. In which case, and I don't know how long that brake fluid's been in there, and so who knows. It's a good idea just to flush the whole system. So instead of hooking up, I have a power bleeder, which you'll see in a minute, but instead of hooking that up and waiting for the whole entire reservoir to drain, what I did was I went to the dollar store and got this marinade injector, which has got this nice little needle which allows you to just suck up all the brake fluid out of the reservoir, deposit it into an empty can, and that's it. So it'll take less time when you go to bleed the brakes to cycle all. You just fill that back up with the new fluid and start bleeding, and it should take less time to move all the new fluid through the system and move all the old fluid out. So yeah, dollar store and a Porsche. All right, time to talk about bleeding. So this is my one-man bleeding rig. I've already done the rears. I'm moving to the fronts right now. And the first thing you want to make sure, well, all right. So this is a Motiv power bleeder. This is one of the best inventions, the best tools that you can own as far as I'm concerned, because it lets you bleed brakes, which if you go to the track, you'll be doing a lot by yourself. you just fill it up, you pump it up, you attach it to the top of the master cylinder here, reservoir, and you're good to go. You pump it up, you walk over to your caliper, you loosen the thing, and it just pressurizes the system and forces the fluid through. So it's great. The number one thing you want to remember, sorry, heat today, is that you don't want to let it run out of fluid, because if you let it run out of fluid, then you're going to be forcing air through the system, which is what you're trying not to do. So make sure you check it. I didn't realize how much fluid I was going through in the rears, and I almost ran out. So luckily I stopped just in time. So anyway, I'm using Pentosan Super Dot 4 because it's what I could find around here. And I don't know, in my previous cars I've never put high dollar brake fluid in, and I've always been fine. I've never had issues with fading or anything. So I'm going with this stuff. Alright, so the way you want to load this up is just the way you would pour beer. Angle the container, pour slow. You don't want to aerate the fluid. Remember, the whole point of bleeding your brakes is to get the air out of the system. So if you're over here and you dump this thing and you get a nice head going on this brake fluid, you're kind of defeating the purpose of it. So nice and slow, let it run down the side. Don't make it chug. Make like that, you know, blurbling sound when you tip a can too far up and down. It's a nice steady pour. Dump it all in so I don't have to. I don't think I'm going to need a whole nother can to do the fronts, because I already replaced all the fluid in the master cylinder as you saw before. So the lines to the front are much shorter. That being said, also the bleed order for this car, or in most cars in general, is you want to go the furthest away from the master cylinder, working your way towards the master cylinder, towards the closest. So in this car, it's passenger rear, driver's rear, then passenger front, driver's front, because the master cylinder is right here, and driver's front is right here. So, yeah. Sometimes in certain cars, the order of, or the way they route the brake lines might be funny, and some might be longer than others, so just consult your manual or forum online. I got that pattern is intuitive on this car, but I also got it from the Porsche manual. So then all you got to do, pump this up. I like to go up to about 15. What you want to do before you even start all of this is what Motiv recommends is leave the container dry, and just try to get 15 psi in there. With the reservoir with this reservoir full of fluid. That way you're seeing if you're holding pressure. You're not creating leaks anywhere. So from up here, that's what it looks like. So this is more dollar store engineering. Porsche. This is just a seltzer bottle. 2 holes drilled in the top. Zip tie around the neck with a carabiner and some tubing. So you want to zip tie that, you can clip that right onto the coil of the spring. I don't know if you can see that. It holds it up and out of the way. Plus air likes to travel up, so gravity is helping you there. So then you want to pop your dust caps off. And before you start any of this, what's also a good idea is, and I think I mentioned it earlier in the video, is make sure that you can actually loosen these things, these bleed screws. Otherwise you'll be in for a world of hurt. And these are another prime candidate for being stripped. So, let's see if I can get this in here better. These are another prime candidate for being stripped, so you want to be careful, and you might want to start it off with a socket and to crack it before you go using a wrench on it. All right. So then the goal here is to take this end of the tube, get a nice airtight seal on there, and then just crack it open. I still can't figure out how to open things today. I don't know why I'm struggling. I think I put these on a little tight when I cracked them, when I closed them from cracking them. Alright, so there you go. You see the fluid start to come up, and you can see all that air sputtering. That's from when we close the line, or when we open the line, so that's what we're trying to get out. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's got like a bluish tinge to it, because this car apparently had ATE Super Blue in it, which, this is one of the ideas behind Super Blue, is that, give me a second, is that you want to, it's for helping to, when you flush the brake system, see when you've got all the fluid through. So you'll see this go from blue to amber, and when it goes to amber, you know that you've flushed all of the old blue fluid out, and then the idea would be the next time you went to flush fluid, you would use blue, you'd push all the amber out, and you knew all the old amber fluid was out when you started getting blue out of here. Unfortunately, you can't do that anymore because you can't buy the Super Blue anymore. It was, this is the first time I've actually used it, and it just happened to be in the car already, but I can see how handy it is. So we got most of the air out, and it looks like the fluid's still changing colors. So what I like to do, just to make sure, the air can get trapped in weird ways, and you really, like, the only way you'll find out if you bled correctly is if you put all the wheels back on and take it for a ride and see how your pedal is. And it's really annoying to get out there and figure out that you need to re-bleed and then put the car back up and do it all again. So as a precaution, I like to just take a rubber mallet wrapped in a cloth and just gently tap the calipers all over the back side, the front side, the lines even, just to work any more bubbles out. So it may not look like it, but there is actually fluid flowing through there right now. It's just, there's no bubbles except for that one guy right there, which we'll send on his way. So right now you can see that now we're looking at a nice amber color as opposed to the blue from before, which means that all the fluid's been pushed out. So on these calipers, we've got an inner bleed screw and an outer bleed screw. What I've been doing is working from the inside out. This way, this clears all the air from the line, and that means everything from here back is bled. And then this, when I open this one, after doing this one, it's just the air that was left in the caliper from there to here. So that's it. I'm gonna keep on going, and pretty soon we'll be done with this task. All right, the last thing, so everything's been bled. It was super easy. Especially with that different color brake fluid. You can tell when everything was pushed through. What's funny is you can see all the blue fluid on top and all the yellow stuff on the bottom. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like a 5th grade science experiment. Densities and science and stuff. So anyway, the last thing I want to say about bleeding brakes anyway is when you're using one of these guys, the Motive Power Bleeder, you want to make sure that this is still got under pressure. You don't want to take this cap off down here because you're going to end up spraying brake fluid all over the place. Ask me how I know. So what you want to do is come over here to the top and just slowly unscrew this. Let the pressure out. So now we're down to 0 on the PSI meter down there. And then what I like to do is get this lower than the master cylinder, just like we did with the brake lines. And then take this off. Tip it up. All the extra brake fluid runs down instead of all over the car. And then you can crack the top again of the, this is all off camera, you can't see it anyway. Anyway, when you hold it up like this, you want to crack the lid on the power bleeder, and then all the fluid will drain out of the line back into the reservoir down there. The last thing that you want to check is that sometimes using this thing, I've experienced it once before, not a whole lot lately, but sometimes it likes to overfill. the master cylinder here. Right now we're right about at the max line, so I'm just going to leave it. But you just want to double check that you're not, this thing didn't pump too much fluid in here and you're not like all the way up at the top of the cap, because then it'll leak and somebody will flag you for, you know, having brake fluid leaking all over the place. Plus you just don't want it leaking all over the place because it's not good for paint, it's not good for anything. It's very corrosive. So if you were over full, you could just go ahead and take the syringe that we used before to drain this and just pull a little bit out. You're done. All right, that is it for brakes for today. Once again, I thank you guys for sticking. If you stuck through the whole thing, I appreciate it. If you like what you saw, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you got any questions or if you got any comments, just leave it in the comments section. Once again, thanks for watching, and see you later.